Welcome to Beyond Business Barriers, powered by insights, driven by strategy, and yes, assisted by AI. I'm your host, Roy MacEwen, and today's episode is part of a special series where we sit down with industry leaders to dig into what's working, what's not, and what the future holds. I'm excited to have Joe with me today on Beyond Business Barriers. Joe, why don't you start things off with a brief introduction of yourself to our listeners, your position, company, and how the listeners can find you.
Hi, yes. Well, thanks for having me on, Roy. Yes, I'm Joe Krueger. I'm the president and founder of Inspira Consultancy. I previously had spent 20 plus years in the C-suite, leading family-owned companies. A few years ago, I launched my business coaching consulting practice. And what I do is I work with companies that want to streamline and scale successfully in less than 18 months. And by aligning people, processes, and strategy, I help leaders reclaim their time, optimize operations, and ignite a culture of accountability and performance. The result, a business that runs with clarity, momentum, and measurable growth, and freeing owners to lead boldly and live fully.
Wow. Well, let's see if we continue this, Joe, and keep our listeners on the edge of their seats for the next 30 minutes. Are you ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
ready to go.
All right. Can you tell us a bit about your role at the company and how it fits into the bigger picture of your business from a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Well, I'm the founder, a solopreneur. So it's myself basically. And so at this point, I'm driving the strategy, what I do on a day-to-day basis. So, typical for an entrepreneur, solopreneur that's starting up, I do everything. So, I'm working on marketing strategies. I'm engaged with clients, coaching, consulting, and trying to figure out things as I go along.
What about a typical day, Joe? Like from the time you start till the time you finish. And I know some days are longer days than others, but just to give us a
True.
general idea of if you had a typical day at work, if such a thing existed for Joe Krueger, how would it roll out?
Sure. Well, I have a standing meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm up early, and typically I'm on a Zoom meeting by 7 a.m. And then throughout the day, typical day is I've got meetings scheduled that could be calls with prospective clients, introductory calls, discovery calls, um, meetings with other potential partners, strategic partners, having conversations, working on my LinkedIn marketing initiatives. So I'm driving all the efforts on LinkedIn. So I'm a regular participant on content, posting content, generating content, and using my assistant to help me, my good old Chat GPT. I think is common with, I think, most organizations today with AI. AI has been pretty significant productivity gain for myself. And as the owner and the solopreneur and trying to come up with your marketing content and the things that you need to do, with social media and specifically on LinkedIn, you really need to be able to create that. And so I'm doing that. I've got some family things here and there during the day. Our youngest daughter is a senior at DePaul University. I'm in Chicago, so I'm right in Old Town. My daughter lives just a few houses down the street from us in a studio, and I have that situation. It's like, hey, Dad, I need to ride to school today. She's about a mile from school, so she,
Yeah,
the weather's nice,
I can
so she
relate to
walks.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of times where she can walk, and and so I have an opportunity to kind of step away for a little bit and go, take her to school and pick her up sometimes, and so it's really about focusing every day on the things that you need to do, the fundamental things as a business. Again, whether you're a solopreneur like myself, or if you're a larger enterprise. When I sat in the C-suite, the companies I led ranged in size from 12 million to 100 million. I was a chief operating officer for a $100 million company, with 400 plus employees.
Right.
And we were in manufacturing. We manufactured food products. And so different challenges and different responsibilities on a daily basis, because I had directors that were doing director level stuff. It was more focused on strategy and some of the initiatives that we had to work on from a higher level. But same thing with my practice. It's okay, what's my strategy? Where's my niche? And again, it's an evolving process of really figuring things out as you go along.
Well, let's shift gears a bit here. Now, what major changes or trends are you seeing in your industry right now?
I think the big thing right now, well, there's a couple things. First of all, it's really figuring out what your niche is. So as a business coach and consultant, to be very frank, there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of business coaches. There's a lot of consultants. And so I would say the change and the thing that has really um, been a significant step for me is figuring out my niche. Um, Having come from where I did as a chief operating officer or the chief executive officer, my responsibilities and my focus was in all aspects of the business. So whether it was sales and marketing, HR, operations, finance, I handled banking relationships. One of the companies was an ESOP. So I have experience in leading all of those areas. And so the challenge has been to really kind of figure out where is my niche, because there's so many resources out there. And one of the areas that I've had a fair amount of success is process, defining processes, work streams, process optimization. Had been a driver on some 5S initiatives, lean initiatives. And as I've moving forward, the change for me sitting in my seat today is, what is that niche? And that's been really the next step for me, and really understanding that and defining that. And I'm getting there. And I'm kind of figuring that out. So you do that as you evolve.
Well,
As
obviously, this affects your growth strategy and your business model. Have you changed them much in the last little bit?
Yeah, I would say from a strategic standpoint, my strategy initially when I started over 2 years ago was to really focus on business owners, co-owners, founders, co-founders, on the businesses that were, say, 1 million up to 10 million. And what's happened is I have evolved where I'm now my ideal client profile. I've expanded that range somewhat. And there's been more discussion about processes, using a tool that I use now, Optics, which is a software platform, and helping organizations. So some of my engagements and my consulting work, my coaching work in the last 18 months has been around process and work streams and helping companies. One of them was a $130 million manufacturing company. And we had a work stream that I was engaged with them to help them get that documented, defined. And now, I've got a $3 million concrete construction company that I'm working with, where same thing, it's process. How are they doing their day-to-day mobilization of their teams, getting out on the site, getting set up, all the different elements of the business on a day-to-day basis, and helping them optimize what they're doing, and in the process creating more clarity for their team, reducing rework, mistakes, and helping them become more profitable. And ultimately, back to my earlier comment, it was about accountability. Now your team understands what those expectations are on a daily basis. And so that's been a significant change for me as I'm evolving and kind of defining where that niche is.
So let's talk about growth from a little bit of a different angle. And now, how do you currently generating leads or attracting new business? Are there specific channels or strategy that you've been especially effectively effective for you? Or
There's a few different strategies that I've been employing. Of course, first of all, my personal network. Having come from where I did, my initial engagements and my initial work came from connections within my network. So that's one area. The other is what I like to call farming, and so that's really about identifying targets. LinkedIn is that's my platform of choice. That is where you find the targets that are going to match what my ideal client profile looks like. And there's a process of reaching out, making connections, um, using some tools to help me along the way. And it's really about developing relationships. So targeting through Sales Navigator, great tool on LinkedIn, finding out who fits the profile, and then reaching out and start establishing conversations, spending time on LinkedIn to see what people are sharing, commenting, and I've made some great connections, and out of those connections have come some conversations to talk about strategically aligning with others that have services that would complement what I do, and collaborating on opportunities, having initial conversations with potential clients who are interested in learning more about what I do. And we've got some opportunities coming up that have come out of that process. Now, as I go forward, my strategy then will be as my business grows and expands, I've got more working capital, then what I'll do is I'll engage with an outside marketing source to help me in generating leads. And there's some other channels, some other opportunities there through, email campaigns, and there's drip campaigns, things like that, to find connections and identify, potential opportunities.
now, what works really well for you? I mean, you've given a wealth of experience now over the years. What really works well in your business that you took over that works well for you now? What worked well then and works now?
I would say really having um, a vision and an idea what your strategy is. I mean, I think you really have to have that, I think, as a business, again, whether you're a solopreneur like myself, or a $25 million company like the ones I've led in the past. It's what's your strategy? What is your market opportunities? Who are those opportunities out there? Having a vision of where you're going, you know, with the business. Again, whether it's me as a solopreneur and, figuring out how many ongoing clients I want that I can service on a monthly basis, whether it's, coaching or consulting. With one of the companies that I led, I was the chief executive officer for a hand tool company, and we manufactured tools that were sold through Home Depot, Menards, big box stores. And so there, again, the same dynamic of looking at, okay, what's going on in the market, with what we're offering, how does that align with the DIY potential, consumer out there, the professionals? I mean, so it was a different conversation, and I had a team of people in sales and marketing that we were having those conversations with, and you invested time out in the market, talking to merchants, talking to users, but it's the same for my little solopreneur practice here, and having I think a clear vision of, okay, so where am I going with this, and how am I going to get there?
So with that, moving forward, with your previous work and what you're doing now for yourself, what would you say are which metrics or key performance indicators should get the most attention, and what get the most attention to you right now?
Well, right now it's really lead generation. As as a solopreneur here, sitting, working in my home office, is really about lead generation. I mean, so it's fundamental sales key performance indicators. So again, with companies that I led, where I had a sales team, we were looking at, okay, so how many calls you're making, how many connections are you making, how many conversations that you have, how many quotes did we have, what's our conversion rate on those quotes, what does that look like, and having a clear understanding of those metrics, because ultimately it's all about having enough opportunities to create engagements. I mean, if I don't have engagements, I don't have a business.
That's right.
So really, it's the the KPI is sales. I mean, how many leads, how many people are you talking to on a daily basis, and if you're not in having those conversations, then you're going to struggle, as a business. At that point, then beyond that, I mean, again, KPI is, of course, you're looking at margin, you're looking at cost. What is that? What are you doing from from a marketing standpoint? Eventually, um, but the financial metrics are not going to be as critical as the fundamental, simple KPI of, okay, how many leads have you generated? And what's your conversion rate?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it sort of basically all comes down to. Now, looking ahead, where do you see the business in 6 months from now? Where do you see
Six,
Joe? Joe, where do you see Joe at in six
yeah,
months?
6 months. I see a business where I've got a steady stream of leads coming in. I've got engagements. I'm coaching business owners or business leaders, providing my services, and I'm now engaged with a marketing service who's going to manage the lead generation tactics on a daily basis. They're the ones that will be doing the reach out, um, making connections, perhaps even setting appointments for me, and leaving myself to focus on the old adage of who, not what. So,
Right.
that's pretty important. So if I'm focusing on that, that in turn means I'm generating engagements. I've got revenue coming. I'm generating profit. I take and reinvest that into marketing strategies and ensure that I have a steady stream in my pipeline of opportunities coming in,
Keep that
because there's
pipeline
the
full.
old
Yeah.
the old classic situation with consultants like myself, solopreneurs, that, you go out and you generate business, and then you're working, you're engaged, you got your time spent in handling those engagements. In the meantime, your sales funnel dries up. So you
Right.
finish those, and then it's the old feast or famine, cycle. So that's what I see in the next 6 months. Um, Having a structure where um, I've got resources that are helping me generate leads.
So you've established that at the 6 month mark. Now you're going to take me to the 12-month mark. Take me to the 12 month, a year from now.
12 months, a year from now, I'm going to have that marketing resource still engaged. I will have a VA in place that's going to help me, and with some of the follow-ups. And I'm going to be focused on engagements with clients, potentially defining some webinars. There, that another strategy potentially that I'm exploring right now. I could see doing some webinars, whether it's online or seminars on site, where again it's about lead generation.
Absolutely.
I've had an opportunity to speak at a few podcasts. I mean, I'm very appreciative of having this opportunity on this particular podcast. I've done some others, and so I see that as another channel going forward, that there'll be some opportunities to share my background, my experience, have a potential audience learn a little bit more about me, and potentially pique some interest where they would want to reach out, talk
Well,
about.
what's not intriguing? I mean, how many years have you been in the industry?
Well, 20 plus I spent
Yeah. So,
in the C-suite. So, yeah, I got a fair amount of experience.
oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Lots of
Yeah.
knowledge to pass on. That's
Yes.
why we initiated this podcast today.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Okay, now I'm gonna see if see what you think of this. I'm gonna give you wave a magic wand and fix one major issue today. What would it be?
Lead gen. It's lead generation. Trying to, and the challenge is figuring out where my tribe is. That's an old say. So those business owners, co-owners, leaders, founders, co-founders, leaders, really having um, the ability to figure out where my tribe is. They call it the tribe, so that I'm really focused in the right area and generating conversations and discussions with the appropriate connections that are going to create opportunities.
Right. So, at which point in time did you decide that you were going to? Did you have time off before you said, "I'm going to become a solopreneur. I'm going to be my own boss again. I'm going to start over again." Was that after a little rest and relaxation?
Um, Not, I mean, I suppose a little bit. I mean, my last two roles, the companies that I was in a leadership position, the companies were sold. You
Yeah.
know,
So that
so and I was in a role that there was redundancy. Unfortunately, I wasn't with the company that was doing the acquiring. So, and the company that was doing the acquiring, they had their team, and so that's just the reality of professionals like myself sitting in those seats. A lot of times, when there's a merger or an acquisition, then typically there's going to be some positions eliminated, and it makes
right.
sense. I mean, if I was sitting
Oh
in
yeah.
their seat, I'd be doing the same thing. I mean, it's
Yes,
all about
exactly.
costs, and there was a reason why they were acquiring us. So, after a couple of times of that, it was at that point I said, you know what? Do I want to go out and do this again? Where is this going to go? And as I took a step back and really started thinking about and I'll take a step back for a minute. I started even before that point. I'm having that conversation of, what's my purpose and why the hell do I exist? And
Right, right.
what is the reason out there? And so I went through this whole discovery process, and really came to the conclusion that my purpose is to expand human potential and help people achieve their dreams.
Right.
And that came out of the fact that when I was sitting in that leadership position, I found that building teams, doing leadership development, doing organizational development, that is what drove the result. I mean, that's where the success came from. Now, I happen to be sitting in the seat, and you get credit for that kind of stuff. But the bottom line was, it was the people. And what I learned over the course of my career is, surrounding yourself with people smarter than you, who have, more skills in those key areas than me,
Right.
where again, who, not what, so that I was focusing on the areas that I brought more value, strategy, vision, the bigger picture stuff. And so by understanding that, then that helped me come to this decision to say, okay, you know what? I want to help people. I want to go out there, help business owners. It could even be a small company, $1 million company that says, I want to get to 5 million. How do I get to 5 million? How do I scale this? You
Right.
know, um, so many times those business owners, it's interesting, you talk to them and they start off and they have this idea of this financial freedom, and then so my website talks about the 5 steps of financial freedom, and
Right.
it's an evolution, but they find they're not getting there, and they're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And they're going, what the heck, man? It's like something's out of whack here. I don't have any balance here. My family's wondering, what are you doing? And where are you at? And it seems like I'm on this treadmill and just trying to figure this out. So my thought and my passion and my purpose kind of led me to think that I can help people like that and help them get on that right path. And that's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of fun actually, and helping,
Absolutely.
people achieve that. And when the eyes light up or
The
you see the light
epiphany
bulb go,
moment.
they
The
go,
epiphany moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
the epiphany moment, like the aha moment, and they go, holy wow, and so, and you're sitting there, it's like you do get some, you do get some joy out of it. You go, oh wow, and they go, thank you. You're like, wow, that's great insight. How did you know that? It's like, well, by screwing it up about 7 times before. That's the
Exactly.
only reason I know it. This things you're talking about is like, believe me. I mean, all the mistakes and, bad decisions over 20 years. It's the only reason I know some of these things that I'm able to help people with.
Yeah, and don't repeat them. That's the thing. That's why people
Yes.
need to interact with the other generation here,
Right,
because
right.
learn from what we didn't do right and
Yeah.
along with what we're doing right now, right?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so that's why. That's how I landed here, where I am today
Right.
and doing what I do.
Well, if you were to give one piece of advice to someone who was thinking about stepping away and starting their own business, one piece of advice, what's the first and greatest piece of advice you could give to them?
I have a pretty good idea of who you're going to serve. Who's that? What are you bringing from a value standpoint? So you have an idea, you're sitting there and you say, I want to do this. So who are you going to serve? Why are you going to do that? Why are you passionate about that? Why do you think that's going to be something that's going to bring value? If you're doing it just for the money, thinking, well, I'm just going to make a ton of money, I don't know if you're going down the right path. I
Take
mean,
that
so
reality pill and turn
yeah, you
around.
gotta, yeah. So I think you want to have at least some idea. You're never going to have all the answers up front. You have an idea, say, okay, I think there's an opportunity here in the market. I think I can go out and help in this particular space. And just have at least some basic concept or idea of what you want to do there.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, I have to say, it's been an awesome conversation. I thank you for being so candid, honest, and thoughtful. Once I wrap up the series of Beyond Business Barriers, I'll be putting together a summary of key insights from across all our guests, and I'll definitely be sending one your way.
I
So I'll
appreciate it.
bid you adieu, sir. You have yourself a wonderful evening, and we'll chat again.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Roy.
Take
It's
care,
been a
Joe.
pleasure. Okay.
Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Bye.